Well, I was interested in working on the People Not Property project because it's such an important history that has to be taught. And a lot of people don't know about the history of the enslaved population in the North, and especially right here in our own backyard here in Rockland County and Westchester County. My name is Jennifer Lorenzo. I teach social studies at Nyack High School in Nyack, New York. Okay, so welcome everyone. So what I'm going to ask you to please do is write down some words that you associate with slavery and enslaved people, and some places that you think of when you think of enslaved people. Now we're going to take a look at some primary sources today and some videos, but what we need to keep in mind is some of the language in here is language that we don't use today. But these are documents that come from historical sites and are the primary sources. Our case study today is involving a site called Phillipsburg Manor, which is literally right across the bridge. It is a living history site, and it was the property of the Phillips family. And unfortunately, they had a lot of enslaved people doing the work on their property. Now we're gonna, like I said, take a close look at one of the people who helped the economy greatly at Phillipsburg Manor and take a look and see all the work that they did and what type of compensation they received. The steps for doing my lesson were I first looked at the People Not Property website and the Hard History website and our standards in New York, and I found a lot of really good information on the People Not Property website, and Caesar's story really stood out in my mind, how he was such a skilled miller and produced so much flour and grain for the Phillips family, and he wasn't financially paid, he was just provided the food, the clothing, and the shelter. So I really want to spotlight Caesar and his story and his importance at Phillipsburg Manor. Season was very long. He was most likely working 6 days a week, sun up to sundown. So I looked at some primary source documents and found some really good information that talked about Caesar and his important role at Phillipsburg Manor and all the skills he had to have. He had to be good at producing the grain, but also fixing the machines and working with the people who were going to purchase the grain, and he had to speak many languages and know all the math, so the skills he had were unbelievable. Think about that, 30 to 40,000 pounds a week, 450,000 pounds of grain throughout the entire season, all economically benefiting the Phillips family and not the enslaved person or people who was doing all this labor. I had them look at some of the key parts of the video that showed Caesar and some of the primary sources, and one of them was in the video. It was the actual original document, and then we had a transcript of it, but we used the videos as a springboard into the primary source activity. This is the original document that you have the typed version of. Primary sources provide a snapshot of a time in history that is no longer here that we can learn from. We're fortunate that we have the documentation because there really isn't a lot of documentation for the enslaved population. I thought the kids really did a good job of engaging with the documents and analyzing them and connecting the documents to Caesar's story. To end the lesson, we looked back at the beginning question where I had the kids say some words they associate with enslaved people and what locations they associate with enslaved people. And then after doing this whole lesson about the enslaved population at Phillipsburg Manor, then I had them revisit the question, and a lot of their answers changed. They said how the enslaved people were skilled and talented and had a lot of great value. And they also said how the enslaved people were in the North as well, whereas in the beginning they were just saying the South. So Aaron, what did you think about what you saw in the video?
I feel like they were doing too much work just for it to be the two of them in that one mill. And I also, during the little break towards the end, that they should have been given more food for what they've been doing.
I think he should be recognized in a way that brings awareness to all the people, like specific people who contributed to the nation but were never credited.
Exactly. Because of places like Phillipsburg Manor, which has released these documents, we're learning this history, this hard history that we have to know. It can be troublesome to learn, it can make us sad to learn it, but it is a part of our history and it has to be taught. I'm glad that Hard History does initiatives like this to bring the stories to the forefront and to provide strategies for teachers to engage in ourselves and then to share with other teachers.